the deal with that is actually so to say to people, okay, there's loads of information out there about how to do various things, how to do webinars, how to do email follow-up sequences, how to do all this stuff. What's missing, I think, for the market is what to do.
You hear all the bull about marketing every day. Make your money in your sleep. My new offer is crushing it. My guru could beat up your guru. It's time to go right to the source and get the truth about marketing. With your host, the founder of copychief.com, Kevin Rogers.
Hey, welcome back to The Truth About Marketing. It's Kevin Rogers here, and special guest today is Ben Hunt. Ben has been designing and developing websites since 1994 and really came onto the scene in 2009 when Ken McCarthy invited him to speak at his systems seminar. He's an oft-times controversial blogger, and the level of value Ben puts out is really, really impressive. I'll admit that I'm new to his world, and I've just been really sort of binging on his stuff the last couple of days here. And he recently made the radical move to move a lot of his trainings to open source. So I'm really fascinated to find out what's behind that. So Ben, thanks for being here. I'm really excited to have this interview today.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, man. And so, tell me first about, that's going way back, 1994, right? Like that was not like everybody had a website, everybody was even on the internet time.
No, absolutely. I mean, I was, the thing is, I was at university in England at that time, and I was interested in maths, psychology, art, all this stuff. And then the web came along, and suddenly it seemed like, wow, I can use all of this stuff at the same time. Yeah. So, I mean, my first few gigs, the first stuff I was getting paid for was like designing rotating 3D logos in 3D Studio, not stuff I would do now, but, back then, just like anything that moved or responded or changed, people were just fawning over this stuff. And we were just so dazzled by the internet that, people were paying huge amounts of money for nothing. Right, or for anything. It's crazy.
Yeah, especially now in light of what makes a website valuable. It was certainly a waste of sort of time and energy, right? And I remember all those flash sites where people had to have the cool looking stuff, but it'd take forever to download, and all that mattered that it looked cool,
Yeah, but it's the internet's in its early 20s now, so it's just starting to grow up and get a job. Yeah, so now we can expect for it to pay its own way, and that's fair enough.
Yeah, good point. Right. So so you've written several books. You're a great teacher. What motivates you the most when you wake up in the morning? What has you most excited?
Well, okay, it's a bit weird for me because it's always different from one week to the next, but that's just the kind of person I am. And that's, I think, a big part of what success means for me is actually dependent on acknowledging that that's my personality. I'm not somebody who can remain interested by the same thing from one month to the next. But interesting, I read Simon Sinek's Start With Why a couple of years ago that had been recommended to me a few times. And it was an amazing book, real work of genius. And it made me kind of want to step back and say, well, what am I about? What do I do? And what I did was I kind of looked back over all the stuff that I'd done in the previous 20 years and tried to identify those times when I'd had clarity, limitless energy, when my journey seemed to have some kind of purpose and clarity to it. It's like I envisioned it like I was on a mountain and I was looking back, and the journey that I'd been on was behind me, and most of it was under the clouds. But there were points in that journey when, my path went above the clouds and I could see, and I was in the sunshine. And so it's like, okay, well, those points, what have those times got in common? And what I realized is what what I'm passionate about, what I am about as a person, is exploring ideas for how we can do things better, make things better, and sharing those ideas with other people. That's really my passion.
Interesting. What pays the bills for you, Ben? I mean, has it been consistently all along? Is it designing and developing still, or has it, shape shifted a lot over your career?
Oh, it's changed. It's changed massively over the time. I mean, I started out doing, database design with Oracle as well as building websites. I've done conversion rate optimization over the years, SEO stuff. Excuse me. So right now I'm trying to, I'm actually trying to divest myself of certainly building websites, and also some of the writing work as well. I've written books as well for other people, and I've had some regular copywriting gigs as well. So what pays the bills? I mean, right now I've got one client that I'm doing strategy for, and I also happen to be building a prototype for them. But moving forward, I'm actually on the cusp of creating a marketing strategy only agency.
Yeah.
One of the deal with that is actually to say to people, okay, there's loads of information out there about how to do various things, how to do webinars, how to do email follow-up sequences, how to do all this stuff. What's missing, I think, for the market is what to do, because we're drowning in options for marketing, isn't it? I mean, it would be great to be John Caples, where you've really got a choice of, newspaper, magazine, direct mail, TV, and radio, and that's about it.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
And now we've got hundreds of marketing channels, and nobody can possibly master them all. You can't even get a broad understanding of what all these things do, and more importantly, when and where you should use them. And if you try and use them all, then you're bound to fail.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I call it, now we've all heard of the shiny object syndrome. I'm referring to shiny tactic syndrome, because it's like the minute you decide you have an idea for a product or service, you're just overwhelmed instantly with all the options for how to get people into your world.
I know. I've had people come to me literally in the last few weeks saying, "Hey Ben, can you just help me optimize this thing? I mean, I'm sure you've had it. You've seen this thing so many times yourself. Can you help me polish this campaign?" And I say, okay, what we got? And they say, well, okay, so we're running Facebook ads, yeah. So like a puppy dog, we're running Facebook ads, and we're going to push people to a squeeze page. It's going to have a video on there and an opt-in, and then they're going to be pushed to an evergreen webinar that we're running off this system, and then there's an email follow-up sequence, and I'm going, oh, please, just stop, okay? Because I know next week there's going to be the people who make their money out selling people marketing tactics. Yeah, they're going to bring out something else, and you're going to want to bolt that thing on to your campaign. And it's just going to be like this Dr. Seuss machine where it's so convoluted, and every single junction and joint in this thing is leaking.
That's great. I love that analogy.
So please just stop trying to apply. One of my favorite quotes of all time comes from Saint-Exupéry. I put it in my very first book in 2008. And he says, perfection is finally attained, not when there is no longer anything left to add, but when there is nothing left to take away.
Wow. That's great. So apropos, I mean, and that's the thing, is like, and we feel like we're missing it if we're not using it, right? Like we couldn't possibly have an optimized campaign if all those shiny tactics weren't in there, at some point.
Yeah. And, you have to look at it. And the way I think of it is these people who are in the business of selling you the next marketing tactic, do you really think that they want to solve your business problem for you? Right. It's like what people say about the pharmaceutical industry. They don't create the cures, they create customers.
Right.
It's like you have to look at the marketing tactic vendors like heroin dealers. Like they sell you something. If they solved your problem and you went away happy, they've lost a client.
Yeah, right.
So maybe I'm just overly suspicious.
Well, no, hey, I think, I had a client once who she's a therapist in New Zealand, and one of her claims was, "You'll see me once and never come back."
Yeah.
And I thought, she obviously was aware that was not the typical business model. But what an amazing, bold thing to claim, right? I will fix you in one session and you will be fine. Wow. And then you start to, and then it just suddenly, puts a question mark over every other practitioner. I know you've taken issue with some tactics. How much of it do you believe is like truly nefarious, or is it just, people thinking, well, I'm putting out good stuff, and for the people it works for, that's who it's for. I can't babysit everybody. Do you think there's more responsibility than people take with, teaching marketing tactics?
I think a lot of people who teach marketing tactics, and I think I include the good guys in this as well, there's a really strong tendency to go towards the kind of apologist stance, and just to say, well, it's caveat emptor, buyer beware. I know that I'm going to tell you this stuff, and I know that 90% of people won't apply it, and out of those, half of those it won't work for. But hey, what can I do? All I can do is sell you the course, but whether you apply it is up to you. So, who's really honest? I don't know. But I'm not going to worry too much about it. I think the bottom line is that what really matters in all of this stuff is like I say, it's like choosing what to apply, and even more than that, it's not. Success isn't about which tactics to use. It's this is why I'm so fascinated with strategy, because strategy is very much about who you are. What is your brand? What do you stand for? Why are people going to love you? And that's not to do with, using copy tricks or any kind of, little tactical mechanic.
Right.
It's to do with knowing who the hell you are in the world first before you even, start to design a campaign. And here's the sad thing is, if I could bottle that and sell it as an ebook or a course or something, I could be a very rich man, but you can't. You can't bottle that stuff, and part of it is that nobody's even worked it out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny to hear you say this because, again, we're just meeting today, but the workshop I'm planning right now is about exactly that, because I like you see that as the gaping hole in all of marketing, is that everybody has all these parts in their garage that they can't wait to strap on to the car, but they have no idea about the engine, right? And they've yet to decide, who am I? To me, what is my real value that I can bring? And then, where is the market of people that I can serve best? And then just about engaging in a dialogue with those people to really understand what it is that you can uniquely provide them.
Yeah, I had a buddy over here a year or so ago, and last summer, and I said to him, "Look, Mark, how do we do what we do?" Right? I mean, we've both been in this business a long time. He's been a lot more of the coal face, where I've been more of a consultant. But I said to him, "Look, if we look at somebody's website or their whole marketing campaign, we can normally tell." You've got a traffic problem, you've got a conversion problem, you've got a positioning problem, and this is what you should do. How the hell do we do that? And he said, I don't know. So we opened a bottle of wine, and at the end of that bottle of wine, we were no clearer. So we repeated the process, but we didn't come to an answer. So what I decided, it was a nice sunny day, which is we get 2 of those per summer in England, and so I took a big piece of paper, I took a pencil. And I went outside and sat down and said, right, I'm going to try and map out how a marketing consultant thinks. And what I came up with was literally these five elements of a campaign, which is completely independent of any tactic or mechanic or anything, which are, and I call this evolved into something I call a circuit. So the idea is that when all the 5 pieces of the circuit are in place, then energy will flow, and all the lights will come on. And the things are literally, what is the brand? Who is making this offer? What is the product or service that actually gets delivered? What is the proposition, the offer? Which is a promise to solve a problem, right? What is the problem itself, and then who is the market for that? And if all of those things are clear, sharp, powerful, distinct, and conscious, then you've probably got something to take to market. And then from that you can figure out how to do it. But I think one of the key problems is that so many people try and take something to market without knowing who is like you just said, who is my target market? What problem am I solving? Is it a motivating problem?
Right.
How is my proposition going to be distinct from everything else out there in the marketplace and have clear blue water around it? Right. And you can do that stuff in a day.
Yeah.
But so many people just rush on headlong into trying tactic after tactic after tactic, whatever's the latest trendy thing, without having those fundamentals in place.
Yeah, I think they're hobbyists, and they love the lingo and the whole vibe of it, and they buy the stuff so that they can go onto a forum and talk about the fact that they bought it, and whether or not feel like an authority on it because they spent an hour looking through it, and that it's just one more thing that they can reference. But oftentimes, these folks have no, not even an offer, and it's certainly not a business.
Yeah.
And so it's a bizarre problem. I don't know if most industries would entertain this as much. Like you wouldn't pretend to be a plumber or a dentist. You wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like you'd either be, making money as a plumber or a dentist, or you'd move on to something different. You'd have some other occupation. But in our world of marketing, it seems as though, there's tons of people who dump a bunch of money into this hobby, yet you try like hell to guide them through the actual things that will help them grow a business, and they seem oddly resistant to it.
Yeah. And, for me, I wrote this book last year called Web Design is Dead, when I actually tracked the evolution of this market. And one of the things that really struck me was how crappy a deal clients have had in the last 20 years. Apart from going back to the beginning where it was just extraordinarily painfully labor intensive to make anything for the web. But even still, I still think we're still in a kind of a lawless Wild West frontier land of marketing. And who do you turn to for marketing advice, for strategy? And if you turn to the high-profile people who, like I say, make their living out of selling you the next course in how to market your business, it's like the fox guarding the hen house.
Yeah.
It's like going to a drug dealer to say, I'm kind of feeling down. What do I need? And they'll say, I have just the thing for you. When you want some more, come back next week.
Yeah. Interesting. I love the circuit interview. Let's talk about, your move to make this stuff, this open source marketing project, the ultimate web design. Because it's beyond just design as I would think of it. So maybe let's start with sort of you defining what you mean by web design.
Well, obviously my concept of web design has evolved a lot over the years. Way back in the day when we were the web design monks, the punks that had the time to learn HTML and how to use an FTP program and stuff like that. Excuse me. So web design was just we were just dazzled by the dancing bear. It was just amazing. Over the time then I've been, in the 90s I was obsessed with usability, and then SEO came along and that was fascinating, and then conversion rate optimization around 2010 that became the big thing. But for me it's always about what actually works. But the time that blew my mind, like you said, Ken McCarthy picked up on my book Save the Pixel, which I wrote in 2008. And he invited me to present at this systems seminar in London. Ken his talent is he is the A&R guy for internet marketers. He has a talent for picking out I don't know how he just keeps discovering people, but anyway, I was really lucky. He discovered me, and he invited me to come along and speak about Web 2.0 design, which was a big thing at the time, and really the principles of simple design, minimal design. So I went along there. It's the first seminar I'd really spoken at, and I talked for an hour, and it was cool. And then I sat down, and then he brought on Drayton Bird, who, anyone doesn't, I'm sure everyone who's listening to this knows Drayton. I don't need to introduce him. Mm-hmm. Drayton then spent the next hour talking us through a series of A/B examples. Some of them were print ads, some of them were direct mail pieces. And he would ask everyone in the room, what do you think, A1 or B1 in the test? And the room was full of entrepreneurs, really bright people. And we might as well have been flipping coins because no one really knew. And I think I spent that hour with my bottom jaw on the desk. It blew my mind because there were a couple of things. One of the things was that I realized that web design is actually marketing. Right? It's not a fluffy layer. It's not sugarcoating. Web design is marketing. And then the second thing that was completely mind-bending is that I realized that if it's marketing, it has success criteria that you can measure. You can actually test how good your web design is. So after that, I then went away and spent the next 3 years trying to figure out what makes web pages work. And I had an idea of taking 50 home pages and running 50 different tests, as many as I could do, and collating a whole load of data on it and stuff. It's all crazy. But the other thing that I happened to do in that time was I went back to Claude Hopkins, John Caples, Eugene Schwartz. I read all these books on direct response marketing, right? And this is me 15 years into my web design career, and it's the first time I'd heard about direct response marketing.
Wow. Ken
McCarthy put on a seminar in San Francisco, I think, in 1994, saying the internet is a direct response medium. But he was a lone voice in the desert at that point, because I got into it because I knew how to use a computer and I was just young and passionate, but nobody told us that this was marketing. And I think still a lot of web designers out there don't know. Honestly, no one's told them.
Right.
And not only that it's marketing, but people have been studying this and figuring it out for over 100 years.
Yeah. Fascinating.
So there's nothing new under the sun. It's just, different channels that we're using. But fundamentally, people think the same, respond, and choose to buy for exactly the same reasons that they did in the Roman Forum or in, Mesopotamia or wherever.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Human behavior has not changed. So I was mentioned that it's ultimatewebdesign.com is where they can go see these great. You just lay everything out there, man. Really cool. So what has that done to your business? To just decide. Well, let's talk about the decision to make this open source. I mean, that's a big shift.
Well, so I at the time when I was figuring this stuff out, right, this circuit stuff and all that, I had an inner circle group of other marketers at the time. We'd meet once or twice a week. And there was a group within that peeled off to create a manual for Ultimate Web Design as it was at the time. And I was thinking about this, and then they were thinking about it. And we came together one week, and I said, this circuit stuff, this works so well. It's like so universally useful that I wish everybody could have this. And they went, we had the same conversation. We said this, it's such a kind of a natural representation of what really happens that it's incredibly useful. So we all thought that it should be available for free in some way if we could do it. So then I don't remember how it happened, but I got to thinking about WordPress and MySQL and Linux and all this open source software model, and it became clear that the way that these different software systems have managed to get so good so fast is that they were using the wisdom of the crowd, and the open source model was really interesting. And then I thought, wow, if you think about it, the system of marketing is analogous to software systems because we have data models, as in models of how you can conceptualize the relationship between you and the market, and that's essentially what the circuit is. And we have methods, processes, right? So marketing is very similar to software. And if that's the case, then why can't we make the system of marketing open source? So that's just how it came about, and just a huge desire to make something better by letting the world contribute to it.
Yeah, fantastic. And so the case studies and stuff that are on the site here, are these all kind of like from your laboratory, or can people kind of submit their own case studies?
They're all ones that I worked on about a year ago. But then really what happened is Ultimate Web Design then evolved into open source marketing. So
gotcha.
The latest knowledge is really at opensourcemarketingproject.org. But yeah, I mean, look, in principle, here's how I want it to work. I want people to pick up the systems and the processes, use it, find out when it works, when it doesn't work, and how can we improve it, and then submit improvements. We don't have a way to do that yet. So it's really just a case of, hey, send me an email or record something, and we just figure it out. So, it's very, very early days in all of this. It's not worked out at all.
Right. Very cool, though. I love the concept. And, it's fascinating because there is that thing where you have to pay attention, right? Like, going back to shiny tactic syndrome and all these things, we are all overwhelmed. And sometimes the best solution to figuring out the best course is to say, I'm just going to invest in somebody who's going to show me and not let me be led astray, right? And so it'd be fascinating to see in an open source, how many people have the discipline to partake in it and follow it through as it's designed.
Yeah. And I can't stand there, Kevin, and say I've got answers for all of that and how it's going to work and how it's going to be monetized. But there's just a part of me that thinks I want to earn my money by delivering good service.
Yeah.
So the way I'm designing my business now is I'm going to spend basically half my day figuring out people's strategy, and then the other half of my day decoding what I did in the morning, and then publishing that just to so that we can all share in the thought process. And I don't know how it's going to work. I really don't.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell you.
Well, I'd love to keep up on this with you because I think it's fascinating. And, here's what I do know, because I've been running a community for a couple of years, although it's a paid community. It's similar environment, right? It's like the trainings that we create are based on best practices of the community, right? And so then we turn it into a training for everyone's benefit, new members especially. And that's a fascinating thing to be a part of, because it is like being in a laboratory. It's like only the stuff that works gets focused on. But still, it's really hard to get people to find what they need. Like people will come and say, Kev, is there anything in here about this or to solve this problem? And I'm like, yes, that was a whole discussion last month about that. You didn't, but everybody's so distracted. It's really hard to guide them to the information they need most. I think we could have a whole nother discussion about user experience, right? And how to best optimize putting the solutions people need most in front of them. Hey, it's Kev here. We're about to get to the essential question of the show, but first, If you'd like to go deeper into all the marketing strategies that the top pros are using to really move the needle on their sales, then I invite you to come join us on the inside of copychief. Go to copychief.com/join, JOIN, and see a special offer for you to come check it out. And what you'll do in there is you could enjoy one of the trainings. We've got 12 different trainings on how to improve your copy. We also have an invitation to you to post up your copy and get reviews, friendly, happy, helpful reviews from all the cool copywriting pros hanging out in CopyChief. So it's a great community. You really love it. Tons of valuable information. We want to help you sell better. Come join us at copychief.com/join. But let's get to the essential question, Ben. I'm already foreseeing a part 2, if you'd be up for it, of this interview. But I really want to hear your answer to this because you've done so many cool things. So Ben Hunt, what is the one thing you've done in your marketing that has produced the most surprising results?
Yeah, good question. The thing that I have done, I've thought about this, I've looked back, and it's not a tactic, it's a kind of behavior. And in fact, I just put out a video about this thing because it's really, been eating into my brain in the last few weeks since we started talking about doing this interview. What it is it's something that I've kind of given it a moniker. I've called it marketing on the edge, right? And this is something I've been thinking about for a long time. I use this picture of there's a Roman god Janus that we get January from, and he has a face on the back of his head and a face on the front of his head, and he's the god of beginnings and endings. And with these two faces, he looks to the past and he looks to the future at the same time. And I've been using this metaphor for a while when I'm thinking about conversion rate optimization, because in CRO, you have to look at the results of previous experiments. Direct marketing is the same thing. What has worked in the past? And then you also have to look ahead at the future as, okay, what do we think will work better than that? And this is basically, that's the bare bones of the scientific method. You have to look at the actual results, and then you think creatively about, what do we think that means? Then you design an experiment, then you learn from it. And so where you are is you're kind of riding this bubble through space, which is the interface between the past, where things are dead but certain, predictable, safe, and the future, where things are full of possibility, chaotic, random, scary. And so looking back, the things that I've done that have been most successful for me have been when I've come across an idea because I'm riding that edge. I'm riding this bubble. So I'll give you a couple examples. All right. 2007, 2008, I decided to write a book because I wanted to buy an Audi. Okay, that was the motivation. I wanted to write a book, and I was going to call it 50 homepage redesigns from scratch or something like that. And I thought I'd recruit 50 clients and I'd charge them $1,000 each, and then I would redesign their homepages and I'll make a book out of it, and that's how I'd pay for this Audi. I never got the Audi, but few people signed up, and I started trying, and I did a few redesigns, about 15 redesigns. And then I started with actually a co-writer. I started trying to figure out, okay, let's talk through what. So I was going to show the previous homepage and my new design, and then talk through the reasoning for it. And as I worked through that, I realized that there was actually a model or a pattern to the way that I was thinking, where that I was working. And this thing started to arrange itself into chapters. So it's like, I didn't have a plan. I didn't know exactly what I was building, but I did it anyway. So it's like feel the fear and do it anyway. Yeah. A similar thing, the second system seminar that Ken invited me to, we started learning about, this was 2009, we started learning about conversion optimization. And it blew my mind again. And I decided that I was going to, go away and figure this stuff out. I was going to figure out what made web pages work. I didn't know how it was going to work. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to get there, but I did it anyway. And I keep thinking about this. There's a card, the first card in the tarot deck, the classic tarot deck, is the Fool card, card 0. And it's this guy setting out on a journey full of naivety, and he's stepping off a rock. And he doesn't, the sun's shining and he's just starting out on his journey. He doesn't know where that foot's going to land, but he's stepping out anyway. So for me, I think, being behind the edge is to play too safe. It's to repeat past successes, which will ultimately just lead to entropy and death. To live too far ahead of your edge is to gamble, to risk. And you end up not building anything, but living on the edge. So Save the Pixel, there was no plan for it. I didn't know what the conclusion of the book was when I started writing the book. And yet it was an ebook, literally a PDF, and it probably made $250,000 in sales over 3 or 4 years. 2010, my marriage broke up. And I suddenly had to find some money from somewhere. I was running an agency with my ex-wife. Had to find some money from somewhere. I didn't know how I was going to do it. So I went to a local coffee shop. I got myself a big-ass coffee. I sat down with a pad and I thought, what do I want to do? So it's literally a kind of a feeling of feel what is the next step right in front of me right now? And let's take that step. And what I got was, I want to make a course in web design. I want to teach everybody everything I know about web design. So I just decided it's going to be 6 months long, 1 video per day for 6 months. And I sat there and I wrote a sales letter effectively. It took me an hour. I, drained this coffee. I wrote the sales letter and I emailed it to the mailing list that I had at the time, which was not very big. And I got $20,000 worth of orders for people who wanted to be part of my foundation group, which is like, I had no content. I had nothing. I didn't have a domain name. But I said, who wants to be part of my course? You can be part of my foundation group. There's 20 places, and we're going to meet every week, and we're going to talk about everything, and I'm going to give you the content just in time. So we'll work through this together. And I got $20,000 worth of orders. And again, that course over the next 2 or 3 years probably generated, $200K, something like that as well.
Wow.
And it's simply the reason why that stuff worked is not because I knew what I was doing. It's just because I felt an urge to do something. And I just, started that journey by putting my foot forward.
Wow. That's fantastic. What a great answer. One tactical question, and I hope I don't ruin the story with it. But yeah, because I'm always conscious of the listener going, "Wow, that sounds amazing." But right, what's their but? Is what kind of list do you have? What kind of outreach do you have at that point to make an invitation like that?
In terms of the size of the list,
yeah,
it will have been in the low thousands, I imagine. My list grew to 22,000 or something like that about 3 years ago. And I decided it was so unresponsive that I burnt it and started over.
Yeah.
So I had a list of 20,000 on Aweber that I was paying quite a lot of money to maintain. But I think like it's a truism. It's a cliche, but it's not about the size of the list. It's about the quality of the list.
Right.
And my email list right now is growing by about 700 or 800 a month, which is great. But there's a tiny fraction of the people on those lists who are my genuine tribe and my genuine followers.
Right.
But and all I can do is, I attract them by saying, hey, we've got 5 free ebooks. So people come along to webdesignfromscratch.com and they sign up for the free ebooks, and about a quarter of them unsubscribe straight away, and that's fine. But they've got my ebooks. Right. So they've got my brand, they've got my way of thinking, and maybe one day, they'll
read that stuff.
They'll want to do something with me. Yeah.
Well, that's great. So what's coming up? Are you doing much speaking?
I I haven't done much speaking at all in the last 2 or 3 years. I've become a bit more of a recluse, really. It's just choosing to grow vegetables and take trips to the beach instead. I used to travel quite a lot and do it. I think the novelty wore off.
Yeah, it does.
So no, I mean, look, the thing is, this is amazing. You know, we can now talk. You're in Florida, I'm in England, and you know, we can have a meeting and do this stuff so easily now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm really wanting to focus 100% on finding out how to take marketing strategy as a discipline, how to take that to market, and how to do that in a way that other people can then follow. Because I think the world needs marketing strategists. Literally, people who will say, here's a strategy for you. Here is your campaign design. I will hand that to you, right? But you're not going to pay me. I'm not going to do your copywriting. I'm not going to offer to do your copywriting, your web page design, your SEO, any of this stuff. And we need that kind of professional separation.
Yeah,
I think.
Right.
Because, you can't go to an SEO guy and say, hey, how can I grow my business? Because they'll sell you SEO.
Right. That's a great point.
You go to an Infusionsoft specialist, you go to a ClickFunnels specialist, they'll sell you what they do. And they will make you think that you need what they do. So I think what we really need is somebody you can go to and say, look, what should I do?
Right.
And somebody to go, okay, well, let's do a deep dive. Let's figure it out. And then I'll give you my advice. And then I will step away. Hey, sure, I'll put you in touch with people. But, so that's what I think is, I think there's a huge growth area in marketing for that. That's just my hunch at the moment.
I think it's brilliant. I'm telling you, we're really aligned in this thinking, and you've got some great clarity on this. So this has been super valuable for me just as a conversation, and I know the listeners are going to love it too. So Ben Hunt, thank you so much for making the time, and I sincerely hope we can do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything we can do just to help carry the industry forward, I'm all for it. I'll do what I can.
Awesome. So benhunt.com is probably the easiest place for people to go, get some free books, and find all the other cool stuff you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, great. Thanks, Ben. We'll talk soon.
Kevin, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks again for listening to the Truth About Marketing podcast. If you like this show and you think other people would like this show, the best way to spread the word is by reviewing and rating the show in iTunes. Just log in, click review, leave a big old fat 5-star review, and let everybody know that you dig the show so that they can dig it too. To get all the links and resources we mentioned on today's episode, please go to copychief.com/TAM, as in Truth About Marketing. And if you'd like to learn more about how you can improve your sales copy with templates, formulas, coaching, feedback, or hiring a pro, do all that on the inside of the members area of copychief.com, and I will look for you there. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.